started and scaled an incredible 11 businesses. She's not only an entrepreneur, but at her core, also someone who knows how to turn vision into reality. She's also a 13-time #1 best-selling author.
I've been a real estate broker for 20 years. I owned a salon and spa for 20 years. I usually had 2 or 3 companies at a time. I get bored easy, but I raised 8 children in between all that time.
How many kids did you just say?
We raised 8. We combined.
Wow.
People always want to say they don't have time to do that. I believe you have time to do anything that you really want to. Ask yourself that. If you got a second chance, what would you change? Well, my question would be, then why aren't you changing it now? I believe that God put me in a coma and put me in the hospital for 70 days so that I'd sit still and listen to my next steps. And within the first 30 days, they had 422 records on it. Ended up with $1 million hospital bill. I just never could figure out why I felt kidnapped.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Game Changer Podcast. My name is Michelle Dutro, and I am thrilled to be joined today by Miss Holly Porter. You know, I was going to say, because we were chatting before I hit record, that Holly's name reminds me of like a character in a Hallmark movie. I would expect somebody to be called Holly Porter. It's just like the most perfect name. Holly Porter.
Better than Harry Potter.
No,
That's
it's not.
Oh,
isn't that, that didn't even cross my mind. I just thought you were going to be coming from a bed and breakfast in Vermont somewhere. So Miss Holly Porter, I love your name. All right. That said, I just got off on a tangent. Let me tell you a little bit about Holly, who is not like Harry Potter. Although, I don't know, pretty magical. Here we go. Started and scaled an incredible 11 businesses. I have a lot of questions about that. Over her career, proving she's not only an entrepreneur, but at her core, also someone who knows how to turn vision into reality. She's also a 13-time #1 best-selling author, international speaker, getting ready to go speak again tonight, and the founder of Holly Porter International. But what makes Holly's story truly extraordinary isn't just her success, it's her transformation. A near-death experience, which was the reason that I reached out to Holly, is because everybody, they're always life-changing. And so I really love hearing how that happens. I wish, again, tangent, that it didn't take sometimes us facing death or looking at the reality of our mortality or what do I want life to stand for before we really change. But when it does happen, I love a good story, so I know we're in for one. Forever changed her perspective and deepened her mission from that pivotal moment. She has committed herself to helping others live with more purpose, more connection, and more authenticity. Today, she blends her entrepreneurial expertise with a holistic, soulful approach, coaching and guiding people to align their values, uncover their strengths, and create prosperity in every sense of the word. Holly, did I leave anything out before we dive into you and your story?
no, you can just ask me anything. I'm an open book.
All right, that's fantastic. Well, here we go. Let's start with, first of all, most people are happy to launch one business. 11. This is that you are an entrepreneur's entrepreneur. So are these related? Were they one after another? Are they simultaneous? Is your background always been in business? I mean, how does this come about?
Like over the period of 40 years. So if you think about it from a big stretch, but I raised 8 children in between all that time. So like some of them were not really related, but similar. Like when my kids were growing up, I had a daycare, and then I owned a preschool, and then I owned a children's clothing store as they got a little older.
Wow.
Pardon me. And so those were like why my kids were growing up. And then after that, I got to do my passion projects. And to me, my motto is if I'm not happy, I'm not doing it. And so most every time I did anything, I was happy doing it. And when I wasn't, I shifted. I usually had 2 or 3 companies at a time. I get bored easy. I realized I would have been way more successful at all of them had I have maybe just done one. But I told a real estate broker of mine, he said to me that, he said, you'd be my #1 agent if you would just do real estate. And I says, yeah, I do know that, but I wouldn't wake up every day happy. And guess what? Like 7, 8 years later, when he had dementia so bad he didn't remember anybody, I ran into him, and guess what he said to me? He said, are you still doing 100 things? That's what he remembered about me. And I just thought that was cute that he couldn't remember probably even who I was, but he remembered that about me.
He remembered that. Okay, let's back up. How many kids did you just say?
We raised 8. We combined 4 and 4 each.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That surpasses the Brady Bunch there. That is something. And businesses. So, I love having people that are inspirational when people feel overwhelmed and I can't do it, to say, you'll always find a way. right? When
You
something
do.
matters enough, you will find a way.
And
Yeah.
you'll find time.
And
That's
you'll
what I noticed. People always wanna say they don't have time to do that. I believe you have time to do anything that you really want to.
that you really
So what
want
you're
to.
saying is that you really don't want to
That's right.
if you don't find the time.
That's right. That's right. Everybody can get up a little earlier, stay up a little later, rearrange their schedule, maximize what you're doing. 100% correct. Okay, now the books. Let's talk about these books here before we get into that. Are these all on a similar topic, or what are these books about?
Oh, they're all over the place. So actually you had some old data. I don't know where
Oh,
you probably got it from Match or something. I need to update it. So I have 16 right now. Because I'd say more than half of those were compilation books that I was part of. I have a lot of friends that are publishers and writers and they did books and I'd be part of theirs and they'd be part of mine. So I'd say half of them are like that. Oh, pardon me, I got a tickle. Um, and I did
various
some for real
topics,
estate.
different topics all
Yeah,
over the
I
place?
did. I love personal development, so I did some mindset things around personality profiling. My first couple books were
Huh.
a shoe test. If you were a shoe, what kind of shoe would you be? And it taught you 4 steps to delete your box thinking. And then I
Huh.
did a money profiles book based on that same quiz. It would teach you like how and why you do your money style, and how to do it better. I mean, those are just short reads. I had a couple real
Huh.
estate books, one for buyers, one for sellers. Um, and then I
Wow.
had a book series of 3 that were women's book, like, I called them the rules book. So 40 women answered all the same questions, and
Huh.
then we published it, and it was so much fun. I ended up doing a 30, so 40/40 rules, then a 30/30 rules,
Wow.
and then I did another 40 after that because I had that many 40 and older women that wanted to be part of it. And I thought, okay, well, we'll do another one. So there's
Wow.
110 women in those. So just things, it just depended where I was and what business and what lit me up and got excited
Huh.
about it. Started publishing for a little while. That wasn't my favorite thing to do. I mean, I I mean, for me, it kinda got to the point where I've been a real estate broker for 20 years. I owned a salon and spa for 20 years. So it's not like I just jumped into every little thing. It just overlapped a lot.
Right.
But when I could go sell a house and be done in 30 to 45 days, or I could work for someone for the same amount of money for a year,
Right.
it kinda became,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
Okay.
what do you like better?
Let's go back to this first book. What did you say that you could figure out what type you were?
Yeah. So it was called Inbox, Outbox, Unbox, No Box, 4 steps to delete your box thinking. So
Huh.
it was a quiz about shoes just because I had to have it fun, and you
That's what I
take your
thought you said.
your shoe
Shoes.
persona. So we had sneakers,
Okay, so what are
flats for
you?
women,
You know I have
flats
to
or
know.
loafers for men,
And
heels.
what was your shoe type? What are you?
Oh, I switched from a sneaker boot, more so like they were if you take your
Huh.
4 basic styles, I just use 4 shoes to keep it simple.
Yeah.
That's what I call it, KISS, keep it shoes simple. So we had boots, we had sneakers, we had flats for women, and then heels.
Yeah.
And then the men had dress shoes and loafers for a couple of those. But they still had sneakers and boots. So there was the same book, but I made one for a man, one
Huh.
for a woman, and they're just for fun,
Yeah.
but
I love it.
they're short.
I love it. Well, what's your wine type? I mean, it's just kind of a way to
Yeah.
look at yourself and how you think and
Yeah.
whatever it is. And then
It's
you
my giveaway book. I mean, it's shaped like a box. It's 6 inches by 6 inches, and it has, like, 70 pages in it. So
huh,
it's a 30-minute read if you really wanna read it quick. Lots
right.
of fun quotes in there about shoes. So
Huh.
that was, like, my first couple books I brought out were those.
Okay. And then I know you have self-help, so probably mindset stuff. And did I hear finance stuff as well?
I did a money profiles. It's also a pretty short book that goes with the box book. It's because it has the same quiz in it. So it's a
Okay.
set of 3. There's a men, a women's, and then the money.
Okay.
I do have
Hmm.
though 11/11, big day, the big day when I got out of the hospital, and a lot of things is that number.
Yep.
Is my book. Like this is the book. It's called Near Death Shift. So I'm super excited for that coming. We're in editing process right now, so I'm about ready to pull my hair out, but
So that
it's
one's
great.
coming up.
That's coming 11/11.
Okay, that's a great date, and I know it's going to be exceptional, and we're going to get to that topic, no doubt about it. But before we do, because I want to stick on everything that you do, from children and obviously relationships, because you're in one, you have blended family and businesses
Yeah.
and books and friendships and all of this. And like you just said, well, you can always make the time when it matters. How have you how have you figured out how to master that when the reality is most people will say, I would love to if only I had the time.
Yeah, or
So
but, there's always a but.
right. And
Yeah,
usually, right, we're too busy. We're too busy to go to the
yeah,
gym. We're too busy to care about our health. We're just too busy.
right.
So, what is the simple advice that you give gals, knowing that there's nobody that can have an excuse to you based on
Yeah,
everything that you've accomplished? What are some things that you say, okay, let's get a hold of that thought process? What does that look
yeah,
like
my
for you?
it looks way different now since I got so sick, than it used to. Because I would just go, go, go. It was yes to everything. I'm not such a believer in that anymore because I my immune's down and I need to protect my health. So the biggest thing for me was time blocking, even then, same as now. But I don't even start taking appointments until 10 AM. I get up really early, sometimes 5, sometimes 6, because I would jump in my hyperbaric, that I have at home to protect my lungs. And it just that was my time. I was just like, do I exercise today or do I get in the hyperbaric? Because you can't, one's 90 minutes and it's like, which do you do? So it's just figuring out, even not just with other people in your time, but your own time and that self care. Self care. I owned a salon and spa for 20 years. You'd think I would have figured it out way sooner. I'm a little slow on the take with that. I just, who had time for that? We had all the kids and we were grandparents really young. We have almost 19 grandkids and I'd say, let's see, 15, 16 live right by us around the area. So we're
Wow.
busy. I mean, there's stuff going on. It's just different stuff now. You can
Yeah.
always find yourself busy, but that time blocking's huge. And then don't let people interrupt it. If it's blocked off,
Yeah,
don't
don't
give it away.
renegotiate it. Yeah. Okay.
Mm-mm.
Well, we've danced around it. We have to talk about it. So what not everybody has a hyperbaric chamber. In fact, most people don't even know a lot of people I don't even know if they know what that is or where to
Yeah,
go to use one or why they would use one. So let's
right.
back up. Let's back up to you're living your life. The babies, the books, the businesses, the relationships, and what happened.
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, a hyperbaric is an oxygen like tent. I have a soft chamber, so
Okay.
it's not like what you get in the hospital where you actually go into a hard shell booth and stay there. I go up to 90 minutes and it's just level 10 concentrator oxygen in your nose the whole time. And then it inflates like a tent and gets really hard because it pressurizes. So what they originally came out for were for divers
Yep.
that would go too deep and they had to repressurize. And so it's like my chamber's like going 40 feet underwater. So it
Okay.
pressurizes that. They say there's no science behind a lot of it. They say, oh, it really didn't help your lungs. But I have pulmonary fibrosis from getting COVID and being in the hospital for 70 days. And so, like, it saved my lungs. In fact, I'm probably
Mm.
selling the hyperbaric now because I'm a little nervous. I had a couple people all in I believe when people come up and tell you things, there's a reason for that, and
Mm.
I guess there's been people catching on fire in them, and it's 100% oxygen, so you're not gonna save yourself, you are gonna
Right.
be gone instantly,
Right.
and that made me a little nervous even though I don't get too scared of stuff, but I was like had just got the diagnosis from my, doctor after 4 years now that I don't have to do my annual test for the sorry, got that too. Pulmonary fibrosis because he's so impressed with the way my lungs look. The original scarring's there, but it
Huh.
hasn't gotten worse.
Huh.
And when they first diagnosed me, it was a 2 to 4 year lifespan. So I'm like, "Win. I'll take it."
Wow. Wow.
But so that was really where my shift came from. Hence my book, Near Death Shift. That's exactly what it was. And I know you and I talked about before how near death experiences have changed so many people.
Right.
Well, I vouch for that as well. And I mean, really, when you come to that place, it's like, what are you going to change? If you got a second chance, I mean,
Right.
ask yourself that, even your
Right.
listeners, ask yourself that. If you got a second chance, what would you change? Well, my question would be, then why aren't you changing it now? Why do
Right.
you have to have a near death experience to go through that? I believe that God's my higher power, whatever that is for anyone else, I respect. But I believe that God put me in a coma and put me in the hospital for 70 days so that I'd sit still and listen to my next steps because I was probably off track. And I get relapses every now and again, and they're for quite a few weeks, which really stink. And I realized this year, year 4 of being out of this experience, that's probably why I'm getting the relapses for the same reason, is because I'm getting a little off track and I need to sit back and be still. And so overcommitting on my calendar and to people
Mm,
is different. Like I said, it's different now than it used to be because if I get a relapse, I'm no good to anybody. It's
right.
just like put the oxygen mask on yourself before you can help others. Mothers especially, women especially, need to remember, when you're raising kids, that their kids are everything. But if how good of a mother or a person or a caretaker can you be if you're not taking care of yourself? Sorry, that was my
Right.
tangent about
No,
that.
no, no. That's great. Take me to the day you were in a coma for a long time.
Yeah.
What happened the day that you came out of it? Was it just a awakeness? Was it a gradual? What does that even look like?
Yeah. Well, for me, because I had COVID so bad, so I was intubated 2 different occasions. So in about the first 3.5 weeks, so for people that don't understand, so they put me in and out, and then I do better, and then they took me off it, and then I couldn't get my air back up, so they put me back on, and then I got the tracheectomy, and that was a win. That was about the 3rd weekend because when you're doing that, they've gotta get you off the ventilator as soon as they can because it starts doing organ damage. But
Yeah.
I fought it at home for a week before I went to the hospital. I'm holistic, don't love the thought of the hospital. Definitely didn't love the idea of getting on a ventilator, which took them 4 days to put me on, probably because I was refusing, because we all knew back then, you go on that and you're
Right.
not coming off. That's
Yeah.
just it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And at that point, when I had to make that decision, it was my decision. It's recorded by my sister and my husband. Husband's home for 3.5 weeks till I got the trach. He didn't even get to see me because he also had COVID and he was so sick he couldn't come. So I had sisters and a couple family members. They saved my life by just being there. Someone was there with me 24/7. So I was really grateful for that. But I want to explain there's three different kinds of experiences that I had that I didn't know about until like 2 years later
Mhm.
after I came out of the hospital. I knew I had all these. I knew I had had a near death. I thought I had two of them, but I didn't really know what to call all the other experiences I had, and they were definitely different. So dreams, I could tell the difference if it was just a
Mhm.
weird dream or a nightmare dream. There was a difference between that, and then there's out of body experiences where you literally are out of your body and you go places.
Mhm.
I did lots and lots of those. And then there's a spiritual transformative experience, and that's basically where you're still there, but you're having a spiritual experience. Some people leave to have that, which a lot of people argue that's still in near death, but I'm calling mine spiritual transformative. And then my near death
Mm.
experience was specifically like that when I don't think I ever flatlined. I don't remember looking at my records to see or ask if, oh, did I actually die? But you don't, just to have a near death. They call it near death just because that was the best word they could come up with
Right.
50 years ago when they cloned the name, which is their 50th anniversary, by the way, they're having this year for that.
Uh-huh.
So that I just spoke at that conference. That was exciting. But
Mm.
anyway, so they're all so different. And I know we won't have time. I mean, it's a show probably for each
Well,
one I could give you on each experience, but you just ask me what you want to know and I'll share whatever you
so
want.
which was the most now for how you're living and leading your life? Would you say is the most impactful experience that you had that shapes your life forever?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I would say the near death. Let me tell you the real quick version of the spiritual one though, because what defined that was that I would live. So that was my last experience I had. And it was basically my mom, who had passed away about a year and a half before, came to me. She's on my right side. I was kinda being a jerk in my head. I was saying some
Mm.
naughty prayers like, "God, if" I was done fighting. I mean, it's 3.5 weeks,
Mm.
you know, I was just like, "If
Right.
you're not gonna get me better, then get me out of here." That
Right.
was. And so, when you act naughty, your mom usually shows up. Well, she did. And she just was full of so much love, and she just said, "It's not your time to be here, and you need to fight." And when she said that, above my bed, all my relatives that I could think of that I even knew that had passed on all in white came and appeared in front of me. I had just lost a grandbaby like 6 months before. She was just a couple days old, but she was an adult and I knew it was her. That was really special. And I had
Wow.
a brother that had passed away with his wife and bad car wrecks and the grandparents, but everybody's young and youthful and looking their best. And then they start chanting fight, fight, fight. And every time fight would get brought up, a whole new group of people would line up behind them, now in street clothes. So I knew all of them were living. And of course, I recognized my husband and my kids and friends and siblings. And then all these people, like thousands, thousands of people just kept coming with every time they chant that. And I realized now those were like all those prayer lists I was on all over the world from all my
Wow.
acquaintances. People were hanging on to social media because that's the only way they got
Wow.
updates of how I was doing. And
Wow.
I was on all kinds of prayer lists. And to see that and see that support, it was like that defining moment when I knew I would live because
Hmm.
okay, got it. I just thought that's all
Hmm.
I needed to know, and it was a long journey back, but it's just like that was a really special and spiritual experience to know you have that many
Hmm.
people on your side
Right.
that are here for you. How can you not fight?
Wow.
So, but the near death. So I'll kind of give you a summed up version. You have to get the book, I guess, if you want the whole
Yeah.
thing. What
Good.
can I say? I don't
Good.
know, because there's a lot to it, and so that one I always took my bed, by the way, into my out of body experiences. It's very odd. No one's ever told me that they've heard that anyone say that. I think subconsciously I knew that I wasn't doing well and that if I didn't take my bed with my body in it with me on my out of body experience, I might not get it back. And so I was
Hmm.
sick enough and well enough to know that could happen. And I obviously wanted to keep my body intact. So we went on all
Hmm.
these journeys. So when I went to the near death experience, that was the same. We went and I'm going down the hallway and I had just signed a bunch of papers. When they intubate you, you have to sign lots of stuff. Well, I mean, really, you're hardly alive and they're making you sign stuff. And so I don't remember signing a DNR, but in my mind I must have thought that was what it was. And I'm shaking my finger at the receptionist telling her, I rescind my DNR. I rescind my DNR. So I knew I was on my way somewhere that wasn't probably where I wanted to go.
Right.
And as I went down there, I ended up seeing all these other hospital beds going down the hall with me, which I think were other people dying in the hospital because half of them were at that time. And so we're all headed to this big place. And the only way I can explain it is like a stadium. I call it the Stadium of Light, and it like pictures the biggest football stadium you've ever seen or been in. So all of us got rolled into like the sky boxes up above because we were in beds. And then the next thing I know, there's like this pause, and then I'm out of my bed and I'm in this experience. And thousands of people are there. They're all in really, really bright and white clothing. And they're nobody was I mean, thousands, but nobody was sitting because I could see feet. But there was all this, like, matter of, like, fog, but it was really cool because you could see through the fog. So my senses were like spidey senses. And
Hmm.
usually I tell the story earlier on that I lost all 5 senses in the hospital, I mean, for different reasons. So to lose all that, I was
Hmm.
grateful that they had put me in sedation and things a lot of the time to heal because it wasn't I mean, all I really had function of is my eyes, and I'm already legally blind. So if I didn't have correction, I couldn't even see who people were unless they were like 8 inches in front of my face. So to get in this place and be able to, like, have all your senses, but they're, like,
Wow.
really good, and nobody's talking. You could look at somebody and you could have an instant conversation. It was just like anything you wanted to know, you knew instantly. And, so the learning was amazing. You just didn't have to wonder anything because 'cause you'd have the answer as soon as you thought of, like, anything. And then this music from all 4 directions started playing, and the sound was so angelic. That's what it was angels. And I'm just listening to this going, "Thi like, this" I told my sisters later, "This was the best concert I've ever been to." It was
Wow.
a heavenly concert because it was in heaven.
Wow.
And, I didn't know any of the songs, but I knew the words to every song. So that was interesting, and I love to sing, so I just joined in and had this great experience. Then I had a life review is what I think I would call it,
Hmm.
but I only saw good. I didn't have to see any of the bad I was doing. Found out later why. But I just got to experience the good and the service and just the deeds that you did that were honoring other people, and that felt great. And then I was told 2 things then. I was told to go start this nonprofit called Adventure Bucket Wish, and then no more instructions than that. So I always was like, "Huh, okay, thanks." And, so I was told that, and then I was also told I had just pitched the day I found out I had COVID, when I was still at home. I pitched about 9 people on a Zoom for a company that I wanted to partner with them, and they had a billionaire backer. So it was a brand new tech company. I'd never done a business in tech, so I was super excited about it, and I was told not to partner with them, that that wasn't the highest and best thing to do. It would take me longer, which it has, and that to not do that. And then I was not given a choice to stay or come back. I just got sent right back. And when I ended up waking up in my hospital bed, my sister Jill was with me, and she said I was doing better. Obviously, that's why I woke back up. And she said, "So I ran an errand and I came back and you start I couldn't speak because I had the ventilator in. So they had this alphabet they would bring, this page of an alphabet, and I'd have to point to the letters. Sometimes it took 2 hours to even communicate one word, and I'd be so exhausted because I had no strength. Plus, by the way, they tie your hands to the bed when you're on a ventilator, so you don't pull it out.
Mm.
Not that I wanted to, but it sucked. So you had that's where your touch was gone. And so she had me start pointing at letters, and I started pointing K, I, D. She's trying to help me, and she's like, "Oh, kids, do you need me to tell your kids something?" And she's like, you know, we were like, "No." And you kept spelling N-A-P. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, when I realized you spelled kidnap," she's like, I wanted to go throw up because I thought I only left for a little bit, ran an errand, came back, and you feel kidnapped. What happened while I was gone? She says, "As soon as you spelled that out to me, the nurse and the doctor came walking in to extubate me because I was doing great because I had just come back and I was here and take the ventilator out." And she said, "Then you could talk, not very well, but there were still spirits in my room." And I realized pretty quickly that I
Mm.
was the only one seeing them. They went out, the doctor and nurse, and then my sister was like trying to show me. She's opening up the bathroom door and the closets and the drawers, just trying to show me nobody's there. So there was lots of anxiety. I'd never had anxiety in my life. PTSD, anybody that's in the ICU is going to get PTSD. So there was all these, trauma type things I was dealing with, especially what was going on in my mind. And I just never could figure out why I felt kidnapped. I thought that's the strangest thing. And so it took me, I'll just mention 2 years after that, before I did a hypnosis session to figure it out, because I was trained in hypnosis. So I asked my coach if he would do one on me to see if we could figure out some things, because I remembered all the other stories, but not all of the near death. There were gaps. And why did I feel kidnapped? And so, but the 2 years before I did that were complete, utter hell. I don't know how else I can explain it than that. They were the worst years times 100. Any bad experience I ever had times 100 in my life, divorces, whatever I had gone through. So horrible that I was praying every day I would have died. I just thought,
Why?
why would you save me to put me through this? Like, I don't understand. What is it I need to learn? Because obviously I'm a slow learner. 2 years. I cried every day and I'm not a crier. It was, I mean, every relationship minus my husband and some good friends and a couple siblings, which I have 9 children in my family. So we have lots of siblings. Like I mean, just didn't trust them anymore. They were just horrible. It was awful. I mean, we were fighting some legal battles with some grandkids and just just your mama heart, everything, everything.
Mm.
So I'm finally coming out of this bad situation, which didn't end well for us, but at the point where you did everything you could and now you have to move on, no matter what the ending is. So I went and did the hypnosis session, and that's where it almost felt like another one because I got answers that I didn't know. And the biggest thing
Mm.
he told me, one of the biggest things was, more will be revealed to you when the time is right, which normally would make me crazy. I'd want to know all the answers.
Yep.
And I was so at peace with that. I was like, yeah, okay, great. I'm looking forward to seeing what's next. And things have unfolded 2 years now after that that have been great little breadcrumbs, I feel like. I just call them God gifts. They're just little extra God gifts. And I was told, well, okay, well, first of all, oh shoot, there's so much to the story. I ended up in a what I call in between. I didn't end up in the stadium. He took me to this place. What had happened was there was an entity there. So remember when I felt kidnapped? That entity took me. So I when I went to go from the bed to the stadium to out, I said there was a pause. That was like a part I didn't understand.
Hmm.
He took me and he took me to this in-between place. So the dark's on the right and the light's on the left, and he wanted my light. And so we were able in this hypnosis session to deal with him, to talk to him, to find out why are you taking your light? And the hypnotist friend of mine was very stern. He had my back. He was just like, "You're stealing that. That's hers. If she gets the light, she earned it. Well, I can't have it and I can't go to the light, so I want hers." No relationship, nothing. And ultimately the light was coming to take me. And I remember during the session feeling it on my face, feeling just the warmth and the heat and the brightness of the stadium, that brightness. And he said, "It's coming to take her and I'm not going to be able to stop it." Ultimately, he let me go. And I feel like I call that a spiritual intervention to get me back is what that was that moment when that happened. I saw a couple symbolisms, 2 things that were really cool that I saw. I saw a tree in front of me right after this, and the tree kinda split so I could choose. I felt like it was like, "Here's your fork in the road. You can go to the dark, you can go to the light." Obviously, I'm gonna go to the light. And there was all that matter that I saw in the stadium that you could kinda see through. Well, now I saw it, but it was in the dark, like silver, cobalt blue, gray, black, other colors I can't explain. Were swirling around, but they'd all swirl into like a heart and they'd all flow over to the light, to the left. And I remember thinking, well, okay, we all are attracted to the light. Okay. So I see the tree and I realized I had started my retreat R&R company, the one I was going to partner with that I was told not to. I'd started that, did the branding the 2 years, and I told them it had to have a tree logo in the logo, and they came back with this tree that had 11 leaves and 11 roots on it. I never had them change a thing. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's it." I heard the story later of how that all came about with the designer from what I had told him. But it was like that tree I saw, and it was almost like a God gift saying, "You created that logo in that company. You were told not to partner. You listened. You did what you were supposed to, and you did it without even remembering that tree." And it wasn't the same tree. I'm just saying it was a
Right.
tree.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
then I get over to the light, and all that matter swirling around, and now it's like really bright and white colors, but there was pink, like rose quartz colored hearts that would come into those hearts. And then they were just being lifted higher to the light because they were already in the light. And I thought, oh my gosh, when I did my nonprofit and created that, and we had our first gala, every little gift bag, I knew intuitively had to have a rose colored heart in the bag.
Hmm.
And I had done that and not even remembered that
Right.
was
Where that
part of
came
this
from.
whole. Yeah, and I was just like, "Thank you." It was almost like God was saying, "Okay, you've already just suffered for 2 years. I'm gonna give you some love." Of course he is.
Right.
And then
Wow.
the I remembered to ask when I saw the life review again, because now I'm over it in the light, and I said, "Where's the bad?" Or I thought it. I didn't have to say it. And, oh my gosh, this was a great message. You're seeing the good because that's what mattered. The
Hmm.
good's what mattered, and I thought, "Oh, you're right. It's there. I'm sure at some point I'll experience it. I've done plenty of naughty things, but at that point, my heart needed that healing, and that's what I gotta
Hmm.
see." And then I was given this message, "Love them where they're at." And if that message would have been remembered from the first NDE experience, it would have shifted all those lessons I learned over those 2 years, all those things I had to go through for future philanthropy work I'm doing so I can see these broken foster systems and DCFS systems and things we were going through.
Right.
I wouldn't have learned all that. I wouldn't have known all that because I truly believe there's just good. And unfortunately, there's always an opposite. And so I
Hmm.
needed to go through that and see that. And so I that's a big message I like to bring back to people is if we remember if I would have remembered love them where they're at, the judgment goes away. The reactions to people is
Yeah.
totally different because you're gonna love them no matter what. You can't control what they know and who they are and what they have become. You just love them where they are. And so, anyway, that was kinda sorry, long
Okay.
answer to that.
No, it's fascinating as all get out. Okay. Let's go to your sister. You're trying to write on the thing. Um, at the point that you can really talk, gather your thoughts, convey what you're thinking, what did it feel like to you? Were you afraid? Were you calm
Yeah.
in that? What
Oh,
was the
no.
feeling?
Well, picture what your feeling would be like if you felt kidnapped. Like, there were spirits in my room still, so there's a fear of, I just came from this beautiful place with
Mm,
angelic choirs singing to me and seeing a great life review, and I would have never came back. I mean, I always tell people that. People always say when you're in a
yeah, that's what
coma,
I've
do you
heard.
remember things?
Yeah,
People that we don't get to talk to that chose to stay,
right,
there we don't get to talk to them again, so
yeah,
I would have stayed in a heartbeat. Not that I wouldn't have missed my family, but
right.
I have adult kids. I always tell them I can do more from the other side than I can here because you don't listen to me anymore. Maybe they do listen to me more now, I don't know, but, I just
So
I
that
was
choice of
yeah,
staying,
fear.
what was the feeling that you can most remember about that? Where you're like, "You know what? I would have stayed." What was it? A
The
wholeness,
good
a
feeling?
love? Yeah, a completeness? What
Yeah,
was that?
yeah, it was like the most joy, the most peace, calm, love, any kind of positive emotion. You could feel them all, and like almost people the telepathy
Mm,
going back and forth, you felt all that. I mean, it was
mm,
just like, who would wanna ever leave that? I mean,
mm.
why if you had a choice, unless you knew you really had something to come back and do, I was told what to do, yes, but I didn't get a choice either.
Right.
And maybe more will be revealed to me on that when the time's right, like I was told. I'm okay with that too, and meanwhile,
Uh,
my breath's everything, that's what I lost, and so every day, it's like, I don't wanna waste a day, I don't wanna waste a breath, and, I mean, those timeout minutes that I need for health, that's so I can refuel,
right.
right?
Right. So, if you could look back at yourself from before all this happening and with the wisdom you have now, which is, always hindsight 2020,
Yeah.
but if you could give yourself the best advice to, hey, what would that advice be um to make life not so hard?
There's a lot of things, but a big word that's coming up for me right now is presence, is just giving others that presence because people know when you're really listening
Yeah,
or if you're listening to speak because your next question's coming
that's right.
up and and you're worried about what you're gonna say instead
Yeah,
of really and I think that presence and listening to me are almost the same, it's just spending like, giving that quality time. I look back at all the companies we were running when I was raising teenagers and things that we were going through with all of that, and I just think, gosh, we do the best as parents that we have the skills for at that time,
right,
and when we get better skills, we do better, and
right,
maybe it's to the grandkids that you get to be better with because you've learned all those. One thing I think kids don't remember is that parents are parents for the first time.
right,
This isn't a rerun for them.
right,
They're figuring it out as they go just like you are as a kid,
right.
but as a grandparent, there's a lot more wisdom in that, and I think we need to give those our parents as our grandchildren come a lot more credit, because then you start going through the same issues they did and
Yeah.
just I just remember I mean, I remember being on the soccer field, for instance, and I was over the soccer organization. We were over fundraising and I was the regional commissioner over 1,400 soccer kids. And I
Mm,
had help, but I'm there watching 4 of my kids playing at 4 different fields at the same time. How
right,
do you do that?
right.
But I'm on the phone doing real estate deals because we were busy. And it's just like I was there, I showed up, but I wasn't present, and so, those are
Mm,
things that I can't look back and change now, but I can say I'm sorry, and I can say, "What can I do better, and how
yeah.
can we move forward?" And,
Yeah. So
don't be
now and we had talked about this, I don't remember if it was before we started or after recording, but about uh being better at listening to your body.
Yeah,
And so now what are some things that you do different? I know protecting your time is certainly one of them, but
yeah,
I know as you alluded to, as women, we're last. Right?
mhm.
It's the spouse and the kids and the parents and the siblings and the community obligations and all the things. And so what now are some non-negotiables for you of saying, I gotta care about me, and in what ways how does that care look like for you?
Yeah. The, nutrition is gonna be the number 1 I'll say because I think what we fuel our body with really
Mhm.
matters. So I and for me, like, I just you should see when I travel now, I mean, I'm not a freak about getting sick. I've been international a lot since I was sick. Maybe not the wisest decisions, but I mean, I'll take a Ziploc that's jam-packed for 4 days, and it's jam-packed of, like, all the supplements and
Hmm.
shakes that I do and my protein water powders that I do, and, I'm doing stuff like that 4, 5 times a day sometimes, but to me, it's worth it. People say, "Well,
Yeah.
what have you found that works?" And I don't know. I just throw it all at it, and
Right.
I
Right.
just figure whatever's working. I mean, my hormones getting imbalanced was a big deal. That was the last thing I did, but it took away all my long COVID symptoms. It was the craziest thing. I thought,
Hmm.
why didn't I figure that out sooner? Keep your hormones balanced. And I mean, the fatigue went away. My leg aches went away. The fibromyalgia stuff went away. I have rheumatoid arthritis from it. I'm in remission from that. I
Wow.
attribute all that to nutrition. So I think it's just and then saying no, not overcommitting and giving yourself that time. I feel like I don't get near as much done, but when I kinda get pouty about it, I go back and write down everything I had done, like,
Right. Right.
the last year or 2 years or 4 years or whatever, and
Right.
I know, my software company, there's been a lot of setbacks, with raising money for it, a lot of things going on, and then setbacks on my health, and
Is this the
I'm just
company you
like
were told not to do?
I was told not to partner with the billionaire backer.
Got it. Okay, so it
I was
wasn't
told to
don't do the
do it on my
company.
own.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
yeah.
I was wondering, okay, wait a minute. Did she not take that advice? Okay.
And the
Got it.
nonprofit, by the way, we ended up making it so it changed too. It's funny how all this evolved. So I didn't get instructions and I'm like, okay, well, I've always wanted to do a nonprofit. What's my mission? That's what I didn't get. And I think I had to figure those things out and have some hard lessons with that too. We made it for long COVID. It was an
Mm,
underserved community. Nobody knew anything about it. It was brand new. There's over 100 million, probably more now, that are suffering from long COVID.
right.
And most people that have issues since COVID, if they track it, if you have some health issues, over 200 symptoms are linked to it. So here I was a perfectly healthy person, and now I'm like, feel like
Yeah.
I'm practically disabled. I'm way better than I was. I was 70% for a long time, thought that was my new norm.
Yeah.
Then I got up to 90. I've even been up to 95. And that feels great, because it's like,
Yeah.
my saddest loss for me was my voice. I'm a singer and I can't sing anymore. And they
Hmm.
say there's no damage, so I'm not sure why, but
Hmm.
the more I talk, it'll get raspier. And so I guess I
Yeah.
can sing the blues pretty good, but yeah.
Right.
How low can you go?
Yeah. Janis Joplin. So, as we're wrapping up here, spirituality. How would you describe your spirituality before?
Hmm.
And how would you describe what spirituality means and looks like to you now?
Yeah. All right. Before I was religious, spiritual in that order. Now I'm spiritual, religious. I feel like religion has taken a lot more of a back seat for me. Um, Definitely still Christian. Just don't. I don't feel like I need to be sitting in church every Sunday to be a good person and to do the things I need to do and just know what was requested of me. And so I feel like it's a relationship with God, it's a relationship with my family, that those matter more than any other things to me, and so I just focus a little bit more on that. So um, definitely had the gift of knowing before on things. People that have it, they'll get asked by people all the time, "How do you know that?" I don't know, you just know. Like, when you have the gift of knowing something, you just know it. I'm not psychic, it's not about that, it's intuition, but it's turned on just maybe a little bit more. We all have intuition,
Yeah.
and I feel like a lot of my gifts are heightened, but I've pushed them down, till recently. Recently, I'm like, "Okay, I think I'm ready." Maybe mentally ready, because I felt like mentally for those 2 years, I was in a bad place, and yeah, I mean, I had 9 doctors. I mean, going from no doctor, I had no
Mm,
the hospital had nothing on me. They had no baseline when I walked in there because I was never sick. And within the first 30 days, they had 422 records on me.
mm.
So, I mean, I was one sick person. Ended up with $1 million hospital bill. and then it just kept going from there. So, like, I wasn't opposed to any kind of therapy. I had occupational therapy, physical therapy, mental health therapy,
Right.
PTSD, trauma, you name it, and tests and all kinds of things, and we just threw the book at it, and I'm grateful. I mean, my whole motto was getting better's better. And what I was gonna say, sorry about the nonprofit real quick. So we did it for long COVID for the first 2 years, and then the second year, something was off, and I knew it, and I didn't know what. But I had just started a podcast that year. We were interviewing people with long COVID and caretakers and health professionals and holistic people. And I was interviewing a girl that was telling her long COVID story, and all of a sudden I started reliving mine. I'd taken all the fundraisers off the calendar and just was doing the podcast because I knew something wasn't right, but I didn't have an
Mm.
answer. And I'm reliving mine and I can't breathe, and I'm like, it wasn't live luckily, but I was just like, what is going on? And all of a sudden I get this huge message download to myself that says, this is not your mission anymore, and this is your last podcast. I was like, actually, I was,
Wow.
happy because I finally felt
Wow.
like that was my answer. And
Wow.
so then I got a little depressed about why God would give me the name of this nonprofit and, why would he take it away? And one of my board members, she's really holistic too. She says, I don't believe he took it away. I think you got the name, but you didn't get the mission. You didn't get any other instructions. You picked it. It served its point. And so we ended up keeping the name, keeping the nonprofit, and just changing the mission to help serving women in leadership and women, looking for purpose and things. Cause that's what I got out of mine was my purpose.
Right.
And so that feels so much better. We haven't done a ton with it since we switched the name because I just really was overwhelmed trying to get the retreat R&R stuff working. And anyway, there's just so much to do always, and I love that people are willing to pitch in and help and serve, and I'll take it anytime.
So I know you have your book coming up November 11th. What else do you have coming up that you are looking forward to or excited about that is kind of on your radar that we can all watch for along with you?
Yeah. Well, there's a bunch of podcasts that I'm on that tell just my near-death stuff. If you're into that, the Jeff Marr podcast I'm on, uh, ugh, Heather Teesch, Tesch, I think's how she spells it. Anyway, those are a couple good ones where that's all I talk about. If you're interested in those, my story obviously will be in the book, but there's also 8 lessons that I brought back of 8 things that I learned and how they shifted me, and talks about people like in history. Anyway, there's 8 different subjects that we talk about the last chapters of the book. So hopefully it'll be some personal development in there for people, some thought-provoking questions, not just my story.
Very cool. And this
Thank
comes
you.
out the 11th.
Yeah, 11/11.
Okay,
Mhm.
perfect. So if somebody just keeping in touch with you and whatever you're doing, where all can they find all things Holly Porter?
Yeah. Well, I can give you a link that they can come and just get on like a wait list, where they'll get the newsletter when it comes out
Great,
and remind them.
great.
So I can give you that link. And then holly@hollyporter.com is my email, and hollyporter.com is my website. It doesn't have any of my near death. My spiritual stuff has really just this year come out since I started speaking at the International Association for Near Death Studies conference. Seems like that's when I started getting on all these podcasts for that. I was doing them for business like yours
Yeah,
before, so which I still do, but,
very cool.
it's been a shift for me too, so I love that I'm shifting along with helping other people shift at the same time.
Yeah, that is amazing. Well, all I will have that in show notes, and then any links that you have, please send that over.
Thank
I
you.
know that it's fascinating for many reasons for folks, and like we said before the podcast and during, don't wait for something tragic to happen in your life to ask yourself, am I truly living
Yeah.
to the greatest degree of the purpose I should be living and why I'm here and what that looks like and living a life without compromise. And you obviously do that in spades. So it has
Still
been an
working at it.
well, you know what? We all are, and that's a sign of living, right? Is
Yeah,
that we're out there every day doing the best that we can, and the work that you're doing in this book is, I know, insanely helpful, and I appreciate you being here and taking the time. I know you're very busy, and so I appreciate you making the time to be on the show today. Thank you.
well, thanks for having me. I appreciate being here. You're great.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And like I said, all of this will be in show notes. And so for everybody listening, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Game Changer Podcast.